What's up, guys? Welcome back to Mike It Yourself. In this week's video, we're gonna add a little bit more chrome and a hint of class to our '07 Road King V-Clad. Let's check it out. If you can envision it, in this box full of bags, there is a set of Saddlebag guard rails that we're gonna use to enhance the look of our Road King. So let's unpackage all this, lay it out, and I'll show you what I got. Okay guys, so here's what we got. These are the side rails for your saddlebags. I think they came on, like, I want to say like the Electric Glide or something like that. But essentially what you have is the full setup. So it's the bottom support. So this is what goes under your bag. So your bag is actually sitting on top of this. Now we may already have this on ours because I believe it's the same setup where it just goes into the crash bar or guard, whatever you want to call it, there. So that should be fine. We may or may not use these. Then you have the kind of more traditional bar, right? So this is kind of that black bar goes into here, and this is what protects kind of the front side of the saddlebag. But what you don't have in the other setup is these holes that you need in order to put these side rails on, right? So these have got to be swapped out. So what that's going to do is going to add kind of those rails that go kind of in the middle here, right? So I'm wondering, we might be able to get away with just having to pull this off and then putting all the new parts on, minus that bottom bar, because I think we can reuse that. Depends on what shape it is too. I haven't really examined it, so if it's in bad shape, we'll replace them. If they're fine, then they're fine. You don't see them anyways, so it's not really much of a win by swapping those out. Granted, it is new, but again, what's the difference? So first things first, got to get the seat off, got to get these saddlebags off so we can get to the bolts. So disassembly of this stuff is really, really easy. You got a bolt up there. We've got one more here. We'll have to take off this side cover that just pops off, and then undo this. This looks fine. I mean, it's aged, of course, because it's from '07, but there's no rust or anything on it, so we're going to leave that on. Essentially, it's the exact same thing as this, right? So no biggie. Saves us the steps of having to pull those out, so we're going to be able to do this just a little bit faster. So let me pull off that side cover. We'll undo those 3 bolts and start working on putting the new pieces on. And just like that, we got it apart. Pretty easy, huh? Let's get the new stuff. So putting this together really is simple for this first part. And to determine which one is the right side, it's pretty simple. With this down, your stuff should be going towards the bike. If you got this down and it's the other way, then you got the wrong one. So pretty straightforward. Okay, so now we're ready to start putting on these sidebars. I did have to remove my gap filler panel, and so once we get these on, we'll figure out what it's going to look like or what it's going to take to get that thing back on. Whether or not the bar mounts on the inside of it, the outside, I don't know just yet. We'll figure it out. But again, lack of instructions. So this end here, which is going to go to the bar here, it's threaded, so your screw's going to come from the outside in. And you got to go through these spacers here. So based on pictures, what I'm seeing is this bigger spacer goes on the end of this, which will then go on the bar, and then the smaller one will go on the opposite side, and then you'll pass your bolt through it. So let's go ahead and let's bolt this thing up. So like I said, we've got the smaller one there, the larger one there, bolt going through there, and it's gonna bolt up. That's kind of where these holes. So when I did my video on the gap filler panel, I wasn't sure what the heck those holes were for. Now we know, right? Harley, in its infinite wisdom, they made one part that covered multiple bikes. So now we got, you know, that set up. So that means that our filler panel is gonna have to go on the inside here. So we're gonna have to make sure we have a long enough bolt. That said, the bolts for that did not come with this kit. So you may need to find out or run to the hardware store and get yourself a set of bolts. I'll check my bolt to see what the size is and the pitch, so that way you don't have, you know, I'll save you a little bit of legwork. Okay, if you don't have something like this, I recommend buying it. It is a time saver, and it allows you to check either the size of a nut or a bolt, and it gives you your reading here. So I just ran the bolt that was running through the filler panel, and it's telling me it's a 5/16-18, right? So when going to the hardware store, that's what you're gonna look for. I'll make sure it fits in all three of these different holes that are here really quick, but I believe it's all the same. Okay, so we're gonna put our filler panel. I got myself some screws, and luckily the holes on this thing, they line up with the upper and lower, so we can just go ahead and reuse that. And I've got some blue Loctite on these, and then because of the size of the screw, I'm gonna definitely need a washer on each, but we'll bolt that up. Like that. Gets tricky with all these bars in the way now. Trying to get, you gotta weave your hand in there. All right, so now I just gotta tighten that up. As soon as I get that done, we'll come back and look at this middle support doohickamabob. All right, so the last part of this thing is this little center bracket thing. There's not a whole bunch to it. It's got two screws you gotta undo, so you put one on one side. Basically, I guess it's kind of wherever you want to put it. So we'll get that on here in a minute, and then we'll throw a bag on and see what it looks like. Let's put this on real quick. All right, so I just put this center thing, and the way I determined is I kind of try to line it up with the shock, and then I measured from here, this flat edge, all the way to the tip of this. It's about 8 inches, so that's what I'll use as my kind of my baseline to get the other side to be the exact same distance. Oh, I gotta still tighten those up. Make sure you tighten all your bolts. But we've got that filler panel on. Now we just need to drop a bag in and see what it looks like. All right, so I got a bag in. It looks really good, but this being here, it rubs. So you definitely don't want to mount it there, or it's gonna rub the heck out of your saddlebag. So we're gonna have to scooch it back. I kind of looked at what other people did. Similar scenario. They're all pretty far back here. So I'll get that set up. Got to measure it out and figure out what that distance is gonna be, so we can make the other side match. But as soon as I get that adjusted, we'll take another look. Okay, so I'm taking a further look at this, and it's actually way too close here. So we got to resolve that, because I'm not going to have this thing rubbing up on my saddlebag. It's going to ruin the paint. It's going to just make it look ugly if I ever decide to take them off. So there is a fix to this though. The lower one is fine. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to throw a shim on the back side, kind of in between the fender deal and the bracket, and that'll push this out a little bit. Should give us, I mean, because we don't really need much space, but we need some space. So let's shim it out. Okay guys, so I've been kind of working at this, trying to figure out like the shimming and all that, and seeing how tight that upper bar was. The lower no problems with. It's this upper, and unfortunately, like if I bring this bar to the point that I'm touching the bag, that's how much shimming would have to be done just to get it to be at the touching the bag point. And we would want a little bit more than, you know, that. So we'd probably be looking just to get reasonable spacing between the bag and the bar. That's probably, if not half inch, 3/4 of an inch maybe of a gap. Now, something to kind of consider is I'm using newer style saddlebags on an 07. So these aren't the same size, same style saddlebags that were on the, I think it's like 97, 96 to the 13 model. So that might be playing into it. Maybe they're a little bit more narrow on the bottom. I'm not sure. I tried my leather bag. So this is originally a Road King Classic, and it wouldn't make sense because the straps or whatever, this would be in the way. But I just wanted to get an idea of the thickness, if that was playing part into it. And even those didn't fit very well in this. So I think this is a bust. Unfortunately, I think it would have looked great. It would have gave it a little bit classic look. I would have had that additional chrome, but unfortunately, no go, man. I'm not gonna beat up my bags for something like that. And unfortunately, you know, an option to do single bar, I don't think it'll look as great, and you'd have a hole there. So yeah, I think we'll just go ahead and take our losses. All right, guys, so there you go, man. You know what, like I said, sometimes just things don't work out, right? So unfortunately, these have to get boxed back up and shipped off back to the manufacturer. So just so you all know, these were TCTM or something like that. It almost looks like TCMT, but it's not them. Or if it is, maybe it's a different division or something of them. I'm not quite sure. It's unfortunate, but you know, at the end of the day, you want your stuff to fit. You want it to fit right without crazy modification. If you have to do some minor tweaking, that's fine. Sometimes you got to do that, but in this particular case, it's not going to look good. So let's not sacrifice looks for something that really doesn't, I mean, you know, yeah, you know what I mean? So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this video. Learn from my mistakes, right? That's kind of one of the points of my videos. So hopefully this helps you out, and maybe you avoid running into the same issues that I did if you're looking at potentially purchasing these, or if you've been trying to put yours on, you're like, what the hell's going on? Well, there you go, right? So if you like this video, hit that thumbs up. Love to have you as a subscriber. And if you have some feedback for this, like, drop your comments below, man. I'd like to hear what you all have run into and stuff like that. So look forward to hearing from you. And until that next video does post, I hope to see you in the win.